Cutlery. Before there were forks, before there were spoons as we know them, humans ate with their hands. For tens of thousands of years, this was simply how things were done. But somewhere in the ancient world, someone looked at their fingers, covered in food, and thought there must be a better way. The spoon was humanity's first eating utensil, and it might surprise you to learn just how ancient it truly is. Archaeological evidence suggests that spoons made from wood or bone existed over 20,000 years ago in prehistoric Asia. These weren't the elegant instruments we know today, but rather crude scoops carved from whatever materials were available. The very word, spoon, comes from an Anglo-Saxon word meaning a chip or splinter of wood, hinting at those humble wooden origins. The knife, of course, predates the spoon by millennia as a tool for hunting and survival. But the knife as a dining implement is a different story altogether. For most of human history, people simply brought their own personal knives to meals, the same ones they used for work and defense. It wasn't until the 1600s that hosts began providing knives specifically for eating at the table, transforming the blade from a universal tool into a specialized piece of tableware. Now the fork. The fork's journey to your dinner table is perhaps the most fascinating of all. While primitive two-pronged forks existed in ancient Egypt and were used in cooking in ancient Rome, the fork as an eating utensil emerged in the Byzantine Empire around the 7th century. These early forks were large, elaborate affairs, often made of gold or silver, and they were used by the wealthy to eat sticky sweets and delicate fruits without soiling their fingers. But when the fork made its way to Western Europe, it was met with intense suspicion and outright hostility. When a Byzantine princess brought golden forks to Venice in the 11th century for her wedding to a Venetian doge, the local clergy were scandalized. The fork, they proclaimed, was an affront to God. Why would humans need such a device when God had given them perfectly good fingers? Some religious leaders went so far as to call the fork diabolical, a tool of excessive vanity and luxury that suggested its user was too proud to touch God's bounty with their hands. This religious opposition to the fork persisted for centuries. When the Byzantine princess who had introduced the fork to Venice died of the plague shortly after her wedding, priests declared it divine punishment for her sinful use of the implement. The fork remained a controversial object throughout medieval Europe, associated with witchcraft, the devil, and moral corruption. It's rather extraordinary when you think about it. The simple fork, now lying innocently beside your plate, was once considered an instrument of evil. The fork didn't gain widespread acceptance in Europe until the 16th century, and even then, its adoption was gradual. The Italian Renaissance brought a new appreciation for refined dining, and the fork slowly became a symbol of sophistication rather than sin. Catherine de' Medici is often credited with popularizing the fork in France when she married King Henry II in 1533, bringing Italian dining customs with her. From the French court, the fork's reputation began to transform across Europe. England was particularly late to embrace the fork. When Thomas Corriate brought forks back from Italy in 1608 and tried to promote their use, he was mocked mercilessly by his peers, who called forks unnecessary and effeminate. The English continued eating primarily with knives and spoons, considering the fork a pretentious foreign affectation. It wasn't until the late 17th and early 18th centuries that forks became common at English dinner tables. The American colonies followed England's lead, making the fork one of the last eating utensils to arrive in the New World. Early American settlers considered forks an unnecessary luxury, preferring the honest simplicity of knife and spoon. Even by the time of the American Revolution, forks were still relatively uncommon in average households, though the wealthy had begun to adopt them as a mark of refinement. The modern four-tined fork as we know it today wasn't standardized until the 19th century. Earlier forks typically had just 2 or 3 prongs, which made them somewhat impractical for many foods. The addition of a fourth tine made the fork more stable and versatile, finally cementing its place as an indispensable part of the dining experience. And so the fork completed its remarkable journey from forbidden object to everyday necessity, from symbol of sin to symbol of civilization. Part 2. The Private Revolution, Toilets and Plumbing. Now, let us turn from the dining table to perhaps the most revolutionary room in your home. The bathroom. It's a space we take utterly for granted today, yet the journey to modern sanitation is one of humanity's greatest achievements, spanning thousands of years and countless civilizations. The flush toilet, surprisingly, is not a modern invention at all. The first known flushing toilets date back to around 2800 BCE in the Indus Valley Civilization, in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. The cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa featured remarkably sophisticated sanitation systems, with toilets in private homes connected to covered drainage systems. These ancient engineers understood something that would be forgotten for millennia: that waste needed to be carried away from living spaces through flowing water. The Minoan civilization on the island of Crete also developed advanced plumbing around 1700 BC. The palace at Knossos featured flushing toilets with wooden seats, and an intricate system of terracotta pipes that brought fresh water in and carried wastewater away. Some historians believe this palace even had the first modern-style flushing mechanism, using rainwater stored in cisterns. Then, as so often happens in history, this knowledge was lost. For much of human history after these early civilizations, sanitation regressed dramatically. Medieval Europe, for instance, had virtually no organized waste disposal. Chamber pots were the norm, and their contents were often simply thrown out windows into the streets below. The famous French phrase, "Gardez l'eau," meaning "watch out for the water," was shouted as a warning before emptying chamber pots from upper floors. This phrase, some believe, evolved into the English word loo, though the etymology remains debated. The Palace of Versailles, that monument to French luxury and excess built in the 17th century, had no toilets at all. Despite its hundreds of rooms and thousands of inhabitants, there was no plumbing system. Courtiers used chamber pots or simply relieved themselves in corners, behind curtains, or in the gardens. The smell was reportedly so overwhelming that the court frequently moved to other palaces simply to escape the stench while Versailles was cleaned. The modern flush toilet as we know it was reinvented in Elizabethan England by Sir John Harington in 1596. Harington, who was Queen Elizabeth I's godson, created a flushing device he called the Ajax, a pun on Ajax, slang for toilet. He installed one for the Queen at Richmond Palace and wrote a book about his invention full of political satire. However, Harington's device was ahead of its time. Without a proper sewer system, and with the device requiring large amounts of water for each flush, it remained a curiosity rather than a practical solution. It would take nearly 2 centuries before the flush toilet truly caught on. In 1775, a Scottish inventor named Alexander Cumming patented an improved flush toilet design that included an S-bend pipe, which held water and created a seal that prevented sewer gases from rising back up into the home. This was a crucial innovation. Before the S-bend, any indoor toilet would fill your home with the putrid smells from the sewer below, making them nearly unbearable to use. The real revolution came in the 19th century with the work of Thomas Crapper, whose name has become synonymous, at least in folklore, with the toilet itself. While Crapper didn't actually invent the flush toilet as is commonly believed, he did hold 9 patents related to plumbing and made significant improvements to toilet design in the 1880s. His company manufactured toilets and made them fashionable, helping to popularize indoor plumbing throughout England. The widespread adoption of his products may have contributed to the slang term, though crap as a word for waste predates crapper by centuries, likely coming from Middle English. But toilets alone weren't enough. They required something equally important: comprehensive sewer systems. The Great Stink of London in 1858 finally forced the issue. During an unusually hot summer, the River Thames, which had become little more than an open sewer, produced such an overwhelming stench that the Houses of Parliament couldn't function. Curtains soaked in chloride of lime were hung in the windows, but nothing could mask the smell. This crisis led to the construction of London's modern sewer system, designed by engineer Joseph Bazalgette. His network of underground sewers, completed in the 1860s, is still in use today, carrying waste away from the city and quite literally saving countless lives by preventing cholera and other waterborne diseases. Part 3. The Paper Trail, the story of toilet paper. Of course, having a toilet raises another question entirely. What did people use before toilet paper? The answer varies wildly across cultures and time periods, and it's a story that's both more interesting and more uncomfortable than you might imagine. The ancient Romans, with their famous public latrines, used a tool called a tersorium, which was essentially a sponge attached to a stick. These communal sponges were kept in a bucket of salt water or vinegar between uses and shared among all the visitors to the public bathroom. The thought of sharing such an implement seems unthinkable today, but in ancient Rome, it was simply the norm. The public latrine itself was a social space where Romans would conduct business and chat with neighbors, all while sitting on marble seats arranged in rows. In other parts of the ancient world, people used whatever was available. Wealthy Greeks used fragments of ceramic pottery called pessoi, sometimes with the names of their enemies inscribed on them, adding a certain vindictive satisfaction to a daily necessity. The Vikings and other northern European peoples used wool or rags. In coastal regions, people used mussel shells, which were smooth and, one imagines, rather cold. In the Americas before European contact, corn cobs were commonly used by agricultural societies. The Chinese were the true pioneers of paper for hygiene purposes. Historical records indicate that Chinese emperors were using toilet paper as early as the 6th century CE, though it likely existed in some form even earlier. By the 14th century, the Chinese imperial court was ordering toilet paper in bulk, the Bureau of Imperial Supplies producing 720,000 sheets annually just for the emperor's family. These sheets were large, roughly 2 by 3 feet, and were perfumed for the emperor's comfort. In medieval Europe, however, the concept of toilet paper was entirely unknown. The wealthy used wool, lace, or hemp, while common people used whatever was at hand: leaves, grass, hay, corn cobs, or even stones. Moss was particularly popular in woodland areas due to its soft, absorbent qualities. Pages from old books and newspapers became common once printing became widespread, though the ink often caused considerable discomfort. The first commercially available toilet paper in the Western world wasn't introduced until 1857, when an American entrepreneur named Joseph Gaiety began selling packages of flat sheets called Gaiety's medicated paper. Each sheet was moistened with aloe and watermarked with Gaiety's name, and he marketed them as a medical product that would prevent hemorrhoids. The sheets sold for 50 cents per 500 sheets, which was quite expensive for the time. Gaiety's venture had limited success, partly because many Americans were content to continue using the free alternative, pages from the Sears Roebuck catalog, which became so associated with this purpose that the company eventually started printing their catalogs with softer paper. The toilet paper roll as we know it today was invented in 1879 by the Scott Paper Company in Philadelphia. The Scott brothers initially sold their paper to hotels and other establishments, too embarrassed to advertise such a product directly to consumers. Their reluctance tells us something about Victorian attitudes toward bodily functions. Even discussing toilet paper was considered deeply improper. The perforated toilet paper roll with pre-cut sheets was patented in 1891 by Seth Wheeler of Albany, New York. Wheeler's patent also addressed the great debate that continues to this day. His diagrams clearly show the paper hanging over the top of the roll, not underneath, apparently settling the matter once and for all, though millions continue to hang it the other way. Toilet paper didn't become truly standard in American homes until well into the 20th century. During the Great Depression and World War II, many families still relied on newspaper or catalog pages. It wasn't until the 1950s, with rising prosperity and improved manufacturing techniques, that soft, affordable toilet paper became a universal household item. The introduction of splinter-free paper was marketed as a major selling point in the 1930s, which gives you some sense of what earlier versions must have been like. Part 4. Let There Be Light, the switch that changed everything. Let us move now from the bathroom to another everyday object that transformed human life in ways both obvious and subtle: the light switch. It's such a simple thing, this small lever or button on your wall. You flip it without thinking dozens of times each day. But the light switch represents one of the most profound shifts in human existence, the ability to banish darkness at will. Before the light switch, there was only fire. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived by the rhythm of the sun, their activities constrained by daylight. Candles, oil lamps, and gas lights extended the day somewhat, but they were expensive, dangerous, and required constant attention. The invention of electric lighting changed everything, but the light switch itself had to be invented to make that power safe and practical. The first light switches were invented in the 1880s, shortly after Thomas Edison's successful demonstration of the incandescent light bulb. These early switches were simple knife switches, the same type used in electrical laboratories. You would literally push a metal blade into a contact to complete the circuit. They were exposed, dangerous, and sparked dramatically when operated. More than a few house fires were started by these early switches, and users risked electrical shock every time they turned on a light. The quick break toggle switch, the kind that snaps on and off with a satisfying click, was invented by John Henry Holmes in 1884. Holmes was an English electrical engineer who realized that the quick action of a spring-loaded toggle would minimize arcing and sparking, making switches much safer. His design became the standard and is essentially what we still use today in many parts of the world. That distinctive click you hear is the sound of the spring mechanism ensuring the contact is made or broken quickly enough to prevent dangerous arcing. But here's something curious. If you've traveled internationally, you've probably noticed that light switches look and work differently depending on where you are. In the United States and Canada, toggle switches that flip up for on and down for off became the standard. In the United Kingdom and many Commonwealth countries, rocker switches that you press on one side to turn on and the other side to turn off are the norm. In parts of Europe, you might encounter buttons that you push in and out. These differences arose not from any grand design, but from the independent development of electrical standards in different countries during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Britain, being one of the first countries to widely electrify homes, developed its own standards around the 1890s. The British rocker switch was considered more elegant and easier to operate in the dark, since you could simply press any part of the large plate rather than finding a small toggle. American toggle switches, meanwhile, reflected a different philosophy. The up position for on was considered more intuitive, following the same logic as levers and valves. There was also a practical consideration. Toggle switches were cheaper to manufacture than rocker switches, which mattered in a country rushing to electrify vast distances. The National Electrical Code, established in 1897, helped standardize American electrical practices, cementing the toggle switch as the American standard. In Australia and New Zealand, you'll find yet another variation. Their switches often operate in the opposite direction to American switches, with down meaning on and up meaning off. This isn't arbitrary, it developed from the British influence but with a practical twist. The reasoning was that gravity would help keep the switch in the off position, and in the down position, the switch was less likely to be accidentally turned on by something falling against it. European practices vary even more widely, with some countries preferring toggle switches, others rocker switches, and some using push-button switches that remain popular in parts of France and Eastern Europe. These push-button switches work on a mechanism where pushing in turns the light on, and pushing again turns it off, eliminating the need for a specific on or off position. They were particularly popular in the early 20th century before standardization took hold. Part 5. Where we rest our heads, the evolution of beds. Now let us move to the place where you spend roughly a third of your life, your bed. The history of where and how humans sleep is a story of gradually increasing comfort, privacy, and luxury, though these concepts are far more recent than you might imagine. For most of human prehistory, people slept on the ground, perhaps on piles of grass, leaves, or animal skins. The first purposeful beds appeared around 77,000 years ago in South Africa, where archaeologists discovered layers of sedge and rushes that had been deliberately arranged as sleeping mats. These ancient humans even placed aromatic leaves containing natural insect repellents within the bedding, showing a sophisticated understanding of comfort and pest control that would take other cultures millennia to rediscover. The ancient Egyptians elevated the bed, quite literally. Wealthy Egyptians slept on wooden frames with legs that raised the sleeping surface off the ground, away from drafts, insects, and the occasional scorpion. These beds were often surprisingly sophisticated, with woven rush or leather sleeping surfaces that provided some give and comfort. However, Egyptian beds had one feature that seems remarkably uncomfortable to modern sensibilities. Instead of pillows as we know them, they used carved wooden or stone headrests that elevated the neck. These headrests served a practical purpose in hot climates, keeping the head cool and preventing elaborate hairstyles from being crushed, but one can only imagine they required considerable getting used to. The Romans took bed design to new heights of luxury, creating the lectus, an ornate bed frame often made of bronze or expensive woods, inlaid with precious metals. The wealthy Romans didn't just sleep on their beds, they reclined on them for meals, for receiving guests, for conducting business. The bed was the center of social life. Romans filled their beds with mattresses stuffed with reeds, hay, wool, or if you were particularly wealthy, feathers. The concept of the feather bed, which we still consider the height of comfort today, was a Roman innovation. But after the fall of Rome, bed design regressed significantly. In medieval Europe, most people slept on simple straw mattresses laid directly on the floor or on basic wooden platforms. The straw was infested with lice, fleas, and other vermin, and was replaced only occasionally. The wealthy had wooden bed frames with rope or leather straps stretched across them to support a mattress, and it was the tightness of these ropes that determined comfort. This is where the phrase "sleep tight" originates, referring to the need to periodically tighten the support ropes to prevent sagging. The phrase "don't let the bedbugs bite" is equally literal. Bedbugs were an accepted and largely unavoidable part of life. The canopy bed, which we now associate with luxury and romance, actually developed for practical reasons in drafty medieval castles and manor houses. Heavy curtains hanging from a wooden frame above the bed trapped warmth and provided privacy in homes where multiple family members and servants might sleep in the same room. These curtains were also thought to provide some protection from insects and things that might fall from thatched roofs. The grandest canopy beds were status symbols, elaborately carved and decorated, with expensive fabrics that demonstrated the owner's wealth. The mattress as we know it, a fabric case filled with soft material, evolved slowly over centuries. The word mattress itself comes from the Arabic word matra, meaning something thrown down, reflecting the Islamic world's practice of sleeping on cushions thrown onto the floor. European mattresses were typically large fabric sacks filled with straw, feathers, or horsehair laid atop those rope beds. The quality of the filling determined your comfort and your status. Peasants made do with straw, the middle classes might afford wool or horsehair, and only the wealthy could manage full feather beds. The steel coil spring mattress was invented in 1865 by a German inventor named Heinrich Westphal, revolutionizing sleep comfort. These springs provided support while also allowing the mattress to conform to the body's shape, something no amount of rope tightening could achieve. However, spring mattresses didn't become common in homes until the early 20th century, when mass production made them affordable. Before then, they were mainly used in hotels and hospitals. The modern box spring, the foundation that sits beneath your mattress, wasn't invented until the 1940s. Before box springs, mattresses sat on wooden slats or wire grids. The box spring provided better support and air circulation, preventing mattresses from developing permanent sags and extending their life considerably. It's interesting to think that this standard feature of bedrooms everywhere is less than a century old. Part 6. The Pillow's Journey Through Time. If the bed itself has an interesting history, the pillow's story is equally fascinating and perhaps even more surprising. The pillow seems like such a basic human comfort that you might assume it has existed in some form for as long as humans have slept. But the pillow as we know it, soft, yielding, designed purely for comfort, is a relatively modern concept. The earliest pillows, like those Egyptian headrests we mentioned, were hard. The ancient Mesopotamians used stone pillows as early as 7000 BC, not because they enjoyed sleeping on rock, but because soft pillows didn't yet exist and any elevation was better than none. These stone pillows were believed to have spiritual significance as well. Keeping the head elevated was thought to prevent demons from entering the sleeper through their ears during the night, a belief that persisted across many ancient cultures. The ancient Chinese also used hard pillows, though they elevated this to an art form. Chinese pillows were crafted from wood, jade, porcelain, or bronze, often intricately carved and decorated. Despite their hardness, These pillows remained popular in China for thousands of years, well into the 20th century in some regions. The reasoning was both practical and cultural. Hard pillows kept elaborate hairstyles intact, stayed cool in hot weather, and were believed to promote good health by keeping the spine aligned. Some practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine still recommend hard pillows for their supposed health benefits. The ancient Greeks and Romans were the first civilizations to embrace soft pillows filled with natural materials. Wealthy Greeks slept with pillows stuffed with reeds, feathers, or soft plant fibers. The Romans, never ones to miss an opportunity for luxury, created pillows filled with the down of geese and swans. These soft pillows were so associated with wealth and comfort that owning multiple pillows became a status symbol. However, during certain periods of Roman history, men were actually discouraged from using soft pillows, which were seen as effeminate. Only women, children, and the infirm were supposed to require such comforts. In medieval Europe, pillows nearly disappeared entirely. The church viewed them as a sign of weakness and moral laxity, much like the fork. Real Christians, church leaders argued, should be able to sleep on hard surfaces as penance for their sins. King Henry VIII of England actually had to specifically authorize the use of pillows for pregnant women, such was the stigma against them. Only by the Renaissance did pillows begin to regain acceptance in European bedrooms, though they remained luxury items for the wealthy. The pillow's rehabilitation in Western culture occurred gradually during the 16th and 17th centuries. The Industrial Revolution brought down the cost of fabric and filling materials, making pillows accessible to the middle classes. By the Victorian era, a proper bed was expected to have multiple pillows, though the enormous piles of decorative pillows we see today are a much more recent phenomenon, largely a late 20th century development. The materials used for pillow filling have evolved considerably over time. Feather and down pillows remained the gold standard for centuries, but they had significant drawbacks. They could harbor dust mites and allergens, they required constant fluffing to maintain their shape, and they were expensive. Kapok, a silky fiber from tropical trees, became popular in the early 20th century as a cheaper alternative, though it tended to clump and flatten. The foam pillow emerged in the 1960s, made from polyurethane foam that provided consistent support without the need for fluffing. These were revolutionary in their uniformity and washability, though early foam pillows had a distinctive chemical smell and could become uncomfortably hot during sleep. Modern foam pillows, including memory foam developed by NASA in the 1970s for aircraft cushions, have addressed many of these early problems. Memory foam itself has an interesting story. It was created by NASA scientists to improve crash protection for airline pilots and passengers, as the material could absorb impact while conforming to the body. The technology remained primarily in medical and commercial applications for years, used in hospital beds and wheelchair cushions, before Swedish mattress company Tempur-Pedic brought it to the consumer market in the 1990s. Now, memory foam pillows are ubiquitous, a space-age material that traveled from NASA laboratories to your bedroom in just a few decades. The standard pillow size we use today wasn't established until the 20th century. Before industrial manufacturing, pillows came in whatever size the maker chose, varying wildly from household to household. The standardization of pillow sizes, standard, queen, and king, only occurred as mass manufacturing of linens became common, making it practical to produce fitted pillowcases in predictable dimensions. Part 7. Drawing the Line, the Story of Curtains. Curtains hang in your windows, framing your view of the outside world, providing privacy and controlling light. But the curtain's original purpose had nothing to do with windows at all. Curtains, in their earliest form, were designed for beds, not windows, and their journey from bedroom to window is a tale of changing architecture and evolving notions of privacy. In medieval times, windows were small, expensive, and rare. Glass was a luxury beyond the means of ordinary people, and even the wealthy had only small panes of thick, imperfect glass. Most windows were simply openings in walls, sometimes covered with oiled cloth or paper to keep out the worst of the weather while still admitting light. There was no concept of window curtains because windows themselves were not the large, glass-filled openings we know today. Bed curtains, however, were essential. As we discussed earlier, canopy beds with heavy curtains served multiple purposes in medieval households. They kept out drafts in cold, stone buildings, provided privacy in homes where families and servants all slept in the same or adjoining rooms, and offered psychological comfort in times when people genuinely feared the dark and what might lurk in it. These bed curtains were often the most expensive textiles in a household, heavy wool or tapestry, sometimes lined with fur for extra warmth. The word curtain itself comes from the Old French courtine, which derived from the Latin cortina, meaning a round vessel or circle. This etymology points to the curtain's original use surrounding beds in a circular or enclosing fashion, rather than hanging flat against a wall. The phrase, "to draw the curtains," originally meant to pull close the bed curtains for sleep or privacy, not to cover windows. Window curtains as we know them didn't emerge until the Renaissance, when glass became more affordable and windows grew larger. The wealthy began to glaze their windows with increasingly large panes of increasingly clear glass, transforming windows from mere ventilation holes into transparent barriers that let in light while keeping out weather. This created a new problem: privacy. When your neighbors could suddenly see into your home, you needed something to block their view. The first window curtains were simple affairs, often just pieces of fabric hung on rods or wires. But as with most things during the Renaissance, what started as practical quickly became ornamental. By the 17th century, elaborate window treatments became status symbols. The French, as they so often did, led the way in decorative excess. Louis XIV's palace at Versailles featured window curtains of such elaborate design, with layers, swags, tassels, and trims, that they could cost as much as a commoner's annual income. The invention of the curtain rod as a specialized piece of hardware came surprisingly late, not appearing until the early 19th century. Before curtain rods, curtains were hung from iron rings on simple poles, pegs driven into walls, or even nails. The expanding curtain rod, which could be adjusted to fit different window widths, was patented in the 1840s and represented a significant leap forward in practical home decoration. Suddenly, curtains could be hung neatly and securely by anyone, not just by carpenters and upholsterers. Lace curtains became enormously popular in the 19th century, particularly among the middle classes. These curtains, made from delicate machine-made lace that became affordable with industrialization, allowed light to enter while obscuring the view into the home. In Victorian times, lace curtains became so associated with respectability and middle-class status that not having them was seen as a sign of poverty or moral laxity. The phrase, "lace curtain Irish," referred to Irish immigrants who had achieved middle-class status, in contrast to the shanty Irish who had not. The 20th century brought a revolution in curtain materials and purposes. Blackout curtains were developed during World War II to comply with wartime regulations requiring that no light escape from buildings during air raids, protecting cities from bomber attacks. After the war, these heavy, light-blocking curtains found a new purpose in bedrooms, helping people sleep past dawn and, later, helping shift workers sleep during the day. Thermal curtains or insulated curtains emerged in the 1970s during the energy crisis, when people sought ways to reduce heating and cooling costs. These curtains had special linings or layers that helped prevent heat transfer through windows, reducing energy bills. Today's thermal curtains are descendants of this innovation, though they're far more attractive than their utilitarian 1970s ancestors. Part 8. The Clean Revolution, Soap Through the Ages. Let us turn now to cleanliness, to soap, and to the surprisingly recent history of human hygiene. If you were to travel back in time just a few centuries, you would likely be struck not by how people looked or dressed, but by how they smelled. Daily bathing and the generous use of soap are modern practices, ones that would seem strange and excessive to most of our ancestors. The earliest evidence of soap-like substances dates back to around 2800 BC in ancient Babylon. Clay tablets describe a mixture of water, alkali, and cassia oil used for washing wool and cotton. This wasn't soap as we know it, but it was a cleaning agent that worked on similar chemical principles. The ancient Egyptians also created cleansing substances, combining animal and vegetable oils with alkaline salts to create a soap-like material used for washing and for treating skin diseases. The word soap comes from an ancient Roman legend about Mount Sapo, where animals were sacrificed. According to the story, rain would wash a mixture of melted animal fats and wood ashes, which contained lye, down into the clay soil along the Tiber River. Women washing clothes in the river noticed that the clay made their washing easier, accidentally discovering the soap-making process. While historians debate whether Mount Sapo truly existed, the Roman name for this cleansing substance, sapo, gave us our modern word. Despite this early knowledge, soap was not widely used for personal hygiene in ancient Rome. The Romans preferred to clean themselves by covering their bodies in oil and then scraping it off with a curved metal tool called a strigil, along with any dirt, sweat, and dead skin. Soap, when it was used, was primarily for washing clothes and treating medical conditions. The elaborate Roman bath complexes were more about social gathering, exercise, and relaxation than about rigorous cleansing with soap. After the fall of Rome, soap-making continued primarily in the Mediterranean region, particularly in Italy and Spain. The cities of Marseille in France and Castile in Spain became famous for their soap production in the Middle Ages, using olive oil to create hard, long-lasting bars. Castile soap, made purely from olive oil and lye, is still produced today and prized for its gentleness and purity. These soaps were luxury items, however, far too expensive for ordinary people. Most people in medieval Europe rarely bathed and almost never used soap. The Catholic Church's complicated relationship with bodily cleanliness, viewing excessive attention to the body as vanity and potentially sinful, discouraged bathing. When the Black Death swept through Europe in the 14th century, many doctors actually advised against bathing, believing that water opened the pores and allowed disease to enter the body. This fear of bathing persisted for centuries. Queen Elizabeth I of England was considered exceptionally clean because she bathed once a month, whether she needed it or not, as a contemporary account put it. The soap industry began to industrialize in the late 18th century. In 1791, French chemist Nicolas Leblanc developed a process for making soda ash from salt, which could then be used to produce caustic soda for soap manufacturing. This made soap production cheaper and more efficient. Then, in 1823, French chemist Michel Eugène Chevreul discovered the chemical nature of fats and their relationship with glycerin, enabling soap makers to understand and control their craft scientifically rather than relying on traditional methods. A major turning point came in 1879 when Procter & Gamble accidentally created ivory soap. According to company legend, a worker left a soap-making machine running during his lunch break, causing excess air to be whipped into the mixture. The result was a soap that floated, making it easy to find in murky bathwater. Procter & Gamble marketed this aggressively as 99 and 44/100% pure, making soap accessible and appealing to the masses. This may be the first example of a manufacturing error turning into a successful marketing campaign. The modern understanding that regular bathing and soap use could prevent disease didn't become widespread until the late 19th century, with the acceptance of germ theory. Once people understood that invisible microorganisms caused many illnesses and that soap and water could wash these germs away, attitudes toward cleanliness transformed rapidly. By the early 20th century, daily bathing had become the norm in developed countries, a change that occurred within a single generation. Liquid soap for home use is an even more recent innovation, not becoming common until the 1980s when Minnetonka Corporation introduced soft soap in a pump dispenser. Before then, liquid soap existed mainly in industrial and commercial settings. The convenience of pump dispensers and concerns about shared bar soap spreading germs led to liquid soap's rapid adoption, transforming bathrooms and kitchens worldwide. Part 9. Laundry and its labor. If soap's history is fascinating, the story of laundry itself, the endless task of keeping clothes and linens clean, is equally revealing about how humans have lived. Laundry is one of those universal human tasks that, until very recently in historical terms, consumed vast amounts of time and physical labor, primarily women's labor. For most of human history, washing clothes was an all-day affair, sometimes taking multiple days for a single load of wash. In medieval and early modern Europe, many families washed their linens only a few times a year, with spring and fall being the traditional times for major washing. This wasn't laziness, it was simply that washing was such an arduous process that doing it frequently was impractical. People owned fewer clothes and wore them longer between washings, relying on outer garments to protect the inner layers and using perfumes and sachets to mask odors. The process of doing laundry without modern equipment was backbreaking. Water had to be drawn from wells or streams and heated over fires, requiring enormous amounts of firewood and hours of waiting. Clothes were soaked in large wooden tubs or cauldrons, often overnight, to loosen the dirt. Then came the actual washing. Garments were beaten against rocks, pounded with wooden paddles, or scrubbed by hand against washboards. The physical labor was intense, and women's hands would become raw and chapped from the hot water, harsh lye soap, and constant scrubbing. The washboard, that ridged surface we now associate with folk music, was actually a technological advancement when it was invented in the early 1800s. Before washboards, women scrubbed clothes against smooth rocks or wooden boards, which was even less effective. The ridges of the washboard helped work the soap into the fabric and loosened dirt more efficiently. Zinc washboards became common in the late 19th century, and while they were easier to clean and more durable than wooden ones, they were also harder on clothes and hands. Wringing out clothes was another challenge. Wet fabric is heavy, and hand-wringing required significant strength. The mangle, a device with two rollers that could be cranked to squeeze water from clothes, was a major improvement when it became available in the 19th century. However, mangles could be dangerous, catching fingers and hair, and they still required substantial effort to operate. The saying, "putting someone through the wringer," comes from this arduous process. The first washing machines were essentially mechanical aids that mimicked hand washing. In 1797, Nathaniel Briggs received one of the first patents for a washing machine in America, though we don't know exactly what his design looked like because the patent records were destroyed in a fire. Throughout the 1800s, dozens of washing machine designs were patented, most requiring manual operation via a hand crank or lever. These early machines saved some labor but still required heating water separately and manually filling and emptying the machine. The first electric washing machine was introduced in 1908 by the Hurley Machine Company, invented by Alva J. Fisher. This machine, called the Thor, had a galvanized tub and an electric motor that turned the drum. It was revolutionary, but dangerous. Early electric washing machines had exposed belts and mechanisms that could catch clothing or cause electrical shocks, especially with wet hands. Many early models had to be bolted to the floor to prevent them from walking across the room during the spin cycle. Automatic washing machines that could fill, wash, rinse, and spin without human intervention weren't developed until the 1930s and didn't become common in American homes until after World War II. The Bendix Corporation produced the first fully automatic washing machine for domestic use in 1937, but it was expensive and plagued with mechanical problems. It wasn't until the 1950s that reliable automatic washing machines became affordable for average families, finally transforming laundry from a day-long ordeal into a task that could be started with the push of a button. Laundromats, or laundrettes as they're called in Britain, emerged in the 1930s as a solution for urban dwellers who couldn't afford washing machines or lacked space for them in their apartments. The first laundromat opened in Fort Worth, Texas in 1934, with 4 electric washing machines that customers could rent by the hour. The concept spread rapidly, and by the 1950s, laundromats were common features of urban neighborhoods, social spaces where people would gather while waiting for their wash. The history of laundry detergent is tied to World War I. During the war, fats and oils needed for traditional soap making were in short supply, diverted to military uses. German chemists developed synthetic detergents, cleaning agents that didn't require fats or oils and worked better in hard water. These synthetic detergents were commercialized after the war, with Procter & Gamble introducing Dreft in 1933 and later Tide in 1946. Tide, with its iconic orange box, became so dominant that Tide became almost synonymous with laundry detergent in America. Part 10. The evolution of cleaning from ashes to ammonia. Our journey through household history brings us finally to the broader world of cleaning products, those bottles and sprays under your sink that make modern life possible. The story of how humans learned to clean their homes is really the story of chemistry itself, of understanding which substances dissolve dirt, kill germs, and leave surfaces sparkling. For thousands of years, the primary cleaning agent was simply water, sometimes heated, sometimes not. But people discovered early that certain substances made water clean better. Wood ash, mixed with water, created a weak lye solution that had cleaning properties. This was one of the earliest cleaning products, used by ancient civilizations from China to Rome. Housewives would save their wood ashes specifically for cleaning purposes, mixing them with water to scrub floors, walls, and cooking vessels. Vinegar has been used as a cleaning agent for at least 10,000 years, making it one of the oldest cleaning products still in use today. The ancient Babylonians used vinegar for cleaning and preservation, and it appears in cleaning recipes throughout recorded history. Vinegar's acetic acid dissolves mineral deposits, cuts through grease, and kills some bacteria, making it surprisingly effective despite its simplicity. Many modern, natural cleaning products have essentially rediscovered what our ancestors knew all along. Sand was another universal cleaning agent, used as an abrasive to scour pots, pans, and even floors. In coastal areas, people collected fine sand from beaches specifically for cleaning purposes. In the American colonies, housewives would sprinkle sand on their wooden floors, then sweep it around to absorb dirt and grease before sweeping it all out the door. This practice continued well into the 19th century in rural areas, a simple but labor-intensive approach to floor cleaning. Ammonia, one of the most powerful cleaning agents we use today, was originally obtained from some truly unpleasant sources. The Romans collected urine, allowing it to ferment to produce ammonia, which they used for cleaning clothes and even for whitening togas. Public urinals in ancient Rome served double duty, as bathrooms and as collection points for this valuable cleaning substance. Fullers, the ancient equivalent of dry cleaners, would pay for urine and use it in their cloth cleaning processes. The Emperor Vespasian even taxed the urine collection industry, and when his son complained about the distasteful nature of the tax, Vespasian supposedly held up a gold coin and said, "Pecunia non olet," money doesn't smell. The development of commercial cleaning products began in earnest in the 19th century as chemistry became more sophisticated. In 1837, William Procter and James Gamble, the founders of Procter & Gamble, started their company making candles and soap in Cincinnati. They couldn't have known that their partnership would eventually lead to a revolution in household cleaning products, but their timing was perfect, catching the wave of industrialization and urbanization that created demand for standardized, reliable cleaning products. Bleach for household use became commercially available in the late 19th century. Chlorine bleach, which had been used in industrial applications for decades, was diluted and bottled for home use. The Clorox company was founded in 1913 specifically to manufacture household bleach, initially selling it door-to-door in 5-gallon containers that customers would use to fill their own bottles. The company's name itself is a combination of chlorine and sodium hydroxide, the key ingredients in their product. All-purpose spray cleaners, the kind you probably have under your sink right now, weren't invented until after World War II. The spray bottle technology itself had to be developed first, requiring a pump mechanism that could create a fine mist without clogging. The first successful spray cleaner was introduced in 1947 by Texeyes, which later became part of Clorox. These products revolutionized cleaning by making it possible to apply cleaning solutions evenly and easily to vertical surfaces like walls and appliances. Antibacterial cleaning products, now ubiquitous, only became common in the 1990s. While disinfectants had existed for hospitals and industrial use for much longer, the idea of using antibacterial products for routine household cleaning was largely a marketing creation. Manufacturers convinced consumers that regular cleaning wasn't enough, that homes needed to be actively disinfected against germs. Whether this is necessary for health or represents successful marketing of an unnecessary product remains a topic of debate among scientists, some of whom worry that excessive use of antibacterial products may contribute to antibiotic resistance. And so we reach the end of our journey through the everyday objects of your home. From the fork that was once considered evil, to the toilet that took millennia to perfect, from the light switch that differs around the world to the bed that evolved from stone to springs, From curtains that moved from beds to windows to the soap that transformed human health, each object tells a story. These mundane items that surround you, that you use without thinking every single day, carry within them thousands of years of human ingenuity, struggle, and gradual progress. The next time you flip a light switch, rest your head on a pillow, or wash your hands with soap, perhaps you'll remember the long journey these simple comforts took to reach you. Sleep well, knowing that you live in an age of unprecedented convenience, where the luxuries of ancient emperors are now the ordinary possessions of everyone. Good night.